when a soldier starts in basic training, you don't do a field training exercise day one.
No, God no.
Right. Hey, welcome to Whiskey, Lead, and Steel, Feelings Hurt While You Wait, the official podcast of Aggressive Defensive Solutions. I'm Lee, and today we have...
I'm
you're Ric. And you're Ric. And
most of the time, anyway.
Most of the time. All right. Today, Ric, what are we going to talk about?
This episode, we're going to talk about immersion training for the novice student or the novice shooter, and the pros and cons there too, if there are pros.
Yeah. So, Ric, you spent your time in the Marine Corps. I spent a day or two in the Army.
Yeah.
And so, what are your thoughts on immersion training, just in general?
In general, immersion training can have great value. The key to it, though, is the student or the whoever's going to be taking the class has to have what I call a walk-around knowledge of the subject matter, and they've got to be physically up to it, right? So, and since we're talking about shooting, we'll say this. So, if you're not used to wearing kit, and you're not used to shooting multiple rounds, and you're not used to doing all the things, and you don't speak the language already, and you're not familiar with what's going on, the immersion training, taking you in and taking you from something that you don't know and just trying to force feed it to you isn't going to work. Immersion training works best when it's a continual, heavy flow of information that you're already familiar with, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not going to immersion train somebody to play the guitar in a day. But if somebody knows how to play the guitar, then you can teach them how to play, the full set of Van Halen.
Right.
So it's got its value as long as the student coming into it has the background necessary to make it work.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I look at it from kind of the standpoint of when you're setting up a training evolution in the military, you generally don't take... Well, let's face it. When a soldier starts in basic training, you don't do a field training exercise day one.
No, God no.
Right, and you start with individual basic tasks. You drill individual basic tasks. You may culminate at the end of basic training with a multi-day field training exercise.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, and even once you get in, you move into a unit. As a first sergeant, we did a lot of stuff that was individual training.
Yep.
Right? You start looking at collective task. You look at the individual task. You look at the high payoff task. Mm-hmm. You train to the high payoff task. Right? Once you create a level of expertise there, then you start building on those to build that collective task. And I look at some of the training that's out there that's multi-day range type training, and where you're going to do all of these individual skills, and I just don't know I don't know how you're going to find the value in retaining that knowledge. Right?
Well, you're not.
Right?
A short answer to that is you're not. So, outside of my life in the Marine Corps, I spent 31 years as a cop, and part of that I spent with tactical operations teams, and even when I was in tactical operations teams, I was working the street and I was doing things, right? So one of the key things that you end up having to do as a cop is you do building searches all the time, whether you're on the SWAT team or not. It's not at all uncommon for you to do building searches. Put a gun in your hand, put a flashlight in the other hand. You and one other guy go into a dark building and look for a bad guy in real time. Nobody, day one of the police academy, does that, right? Mm-hmm. As you're talking about, there are build-up things that you have to do. So before you can safely start doing building clearing, you have to be a good shooter, mm-hmm. right? And in order to be a good shooter, you have to have a really good understanding and mastery of the fundamentals of marksmanship. But then, in addition to that, you also have to train for situational awareness. And so you go from working off of a flat range, just shooting your gun, to shooting your gun out, moving and then shooting on the move, and all those things that come into play. And then once you've demonstrated the ability that you can do that, you can chew gum and walk at the same time, then they start teaching you, okay, this is how you go down a hallway. This is how you do a limited penetration to a room. This is how you clear a doorway as a single person. All of these things build into it. And you take all of these little pieces and then you add them as pieces of puzzles. Nobody says, okay, last week you learned how to shoot and we talked about going and doing a building clearing. So now take your gun and go out into the hood, and at 1 o'clock in the morning when you've already been working for 6 hours, do a building clearing all by yourself. It's unrealistic. So the other aspect of that is, if you are in the military or if you're a cop, you're carrying a gun for a living, and you're doing all these things. So you've been trained to do all of these things that you're now going to put together. But you have the physical capability of it. And even if you're not a PT stud, if you don't go to the gym, but you wear body armor and your gun belt and all the shit that goes along with that all day, every day, you get used to carrying that around. If you have and there's nothing wrong with this, but if you have a 9-to-5 job, right, and you're doing what you do all day, every day, and the big exercise that you get is walking out the car to go to lunch, now you come in Saturday morning, you pile on all your gear, you start taking a sip from the fire hose. If they start throwing multiple things at you, you're trying to memorize these things. Now then you're going to go out, your brain is going to get tired. And that's the thing that people don't realize. So from a physical standpoint, you get tired. When you get tired, you get sloppy. We know that's how bad habits happen. We start looking for shortcuts. That's how dudes end up with rounds in their feet. But one of the things that people don't pay attention to is, especially the adult learner, when you are trying to digest and retain all this information, you're burning calories running your brain and you're getting tired. Well, now you get tired and now you're not memorizing anything. And, like when we started talking about doing the 4-hour training blocks, if you're a typical person and you don't run around carrying a gun and doing all this shit for a living, or you do it all the time, anything over 4 hours, you're not getting your money's worth, because you're going to get tired, and then you're not going to learn anything after you get tired, and then you're going to start degrading the other stuff on the other side of it. I mean, that's been my experience. What's been yours? I mean, we've both been on FXs in the military.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, I look at the same thing. It's in a field training exercise, a lot of times you're looking at, you get to the point of purely diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Right. That you have beaten people down so much, they're not able to continue to perform basic tasks.
Nope.
And look, and you're right. These are guys that are experts. These are guys that are doing it all the time. They're just beat.
Yeah.
Right. And part of the training, right, in the military is to put you in the condition of being tired, hungry, and just beat.
Sore. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And pushing you past your normal limit. But that's part of that's a training outcome.
Yeah.
Right. That is an actual training outcome. But a novice shooter, same as again, day one private as an MP. I'm not going to take somebody the first day they're out of MP school, rotate into a unit and go check that alarm by yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Because they don't know it. But when we get into the training aspect, right, of novice shooters, again, we can talk about the military training as kind of an analog for that. But with the novice shooter, all of these individual skills, they're highly technical skills, right? Just the draw, the reload, and until you've mastered the draw, and until you've mastered a good reload, I watch our shooters. I watch people that come out to the shooting matches, and I'll see some of it. At the beginning of the day, they will come up into the workspace,
and it's perfect.
And by the end of the day, or they've dragged a 175-pound dummy, 30 yards, and that last reload is I'll get it out here somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. But part of it's just not that mastery, right? Of mastering the individual skill. So therefore, you get tired, you get sloppy, and the same thing from an emergent training standpoint. Of here's 2 days of training, and we're going to cover this laundry list of items. You're going to remember the last thing you did.
And and here's the problem that I see with that. And we've talked about this. This is one of those things that it is directly related to another subject that is near and dear to our heart, and that is, what is it you're getting out of, what is it you're doing, right? Are you going to get the experience? Are you going to go and have fun?
Absolutely.
Right? Then there's nothing wrong with going to have fun, right? Or are you working at getting an actual legitimate education and developing a skill set? And the problem, as I see it, and this is one of the reasons that we're doing this, quite honestly, is there's a lot of folks, and I'm a capitalist. I don't have any heartburn with anybody being a capitalist. But there's a lot of folks who have come to recognize, ooh, this is fun and it's cool and it's sexy, and everybody wants to be John Wick or Laura Croft, right? Depending on, how you identify. So if I can spend a bunch of money and go to the range with some trainers and shoot 2,000 rounds over the course of, 2 10-hour days, and and I go and I learn all this stuff, and I come back Monday to next Thursday, I get the coolest conversation around the water cooler. I stand around the career again. I'm like, oh well, so we were shooting around barricades, and we were shooting out of cars, and we were dragging shit, and it was cool, and I was putting lead on steel. Okay, I get that, but let me ask you this then: since you went and you became an expert, as my grandfather used to say, an expert has been a spurt to drip under pressure. Now that you're an expert, how do you break down par time to determine what it is that you're doing? And they go, what? And they go, okay, well, what is your immediate action? What do you mean? And you go, well, how do you not know what immediate action is? If you're doing building clearings, if you're shooting around barricades, how do you not know how to fix your gun if your gun goes to shit on you?
Well, and I'm going to say...
And people want to have fun, and I get that. But if you're going to immersion training in anything, and you're not, in my opinion, and you're not already damn good at it, you're probably wasting your money, because you're going and you're being a live ammo LARPer.
And I was going to say, if what you get out of it at the end of the day is, I want to learn how to do this well, then there's your value. Yeah. There is your value. But if you think you've gone for one weekend and you're now going to go clear buildings. Yep. You and Larry Vickers are going to save the world. You that you think you're going to clear buildings. Yeah. Right. That becomes the problem. Yeah. But if you went and said, I want to go do this because it's cool. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you said, this is really cool. Yeah. And wow, cops that are out there, the military guys that are kicking in doors, all those guys, and that's pretty badass shit that they're doing. Yeah. And if you come away with the appreciation, you go, right. Oh, the people on CNN don't know what the hell they're talking about. Right. This is way more difficult than I ever thought it was. Absolutely. Oh yeah. Right. Yeah, and so and I get that. I guess. But I think so I think it's a whole different. I think the are you getting good training, or are you going to an amusement park? That's a different podcast. Yes. Stay tuned for that. Yeah. But anything else? No, just do what you're supposed to do. The guys who are successful, the guys who do the basics the best and screw up the least. Thanks for paying attention. Hope you had fun. Go ahead, Lee. Tell them how you're going to hurt their feelings. Stay tuned for the next episode, and hopefully we didn't hurt your feelings too much this week. In my opinion, and you're not already damn good at it, you're probably wasting your money, because you're going and you're being a live ammo LARPer.